Welcome, everybody. Good evening, good evening, good evening. We are here once again on this wonderful episode of today. Hello, my resilient roses and all my wonderful kings in the house. I welcome you all. Good afternoon, Victoria is here. She co-hosts with me and she will be with me soon, yeah? We thank God for today. We thank God for our lives. So I'm excited to have all of you here. Once again, I welcome you all on this program titled Resilient Roses. I welcome everybody, both male and female. So women's empowerment, and of course, we're going to talk about boundaries today. Yeah, these are the topics for today that we are going to touch. All right, in today's episode, we want to touch about boundaries. Actually, two things. We want to touch about boundaries and, of course, 5 points of women's empowerment that I've already listed out. Let me just brief it. The 5 points of women's empowerment I listed out here is number one, self worth, of which every woman needs. Until we're going to elaborate it more, let me just mention them. Then the second one is their right to determine and have choices. You and I know very well that women are always limited when it comes to having a choice in whatsoever that thing could be. Then the number three is their right to have access to opportunities and resources, of which is limited down here in Africa. Then the fourth one is their right to have power to control their own lives, both within and outside the home, of which again is limited in Africa. These are the points I listed as of women's empowerment. Then the other one is we are going to talk about today is boundaries. It is a necessity for every woman to begin to learn how to set boundaries for their peace of mind. So let's start with you, Victoria. Again, for those of you who are watching us, if you want to contribute to this discussion, please indicate here, let me know, I'll call you up, right? So let's talk about boundaries in women. What do you have to say? Let me hear from you first of all concerning boundaries, because down here in Africa, setting boundaries, the way I see it, seems like a taboo. When a woman sets a boundary, everybody looks at her the other way. But what do you advise? Is it a necessity in every woman's life to learn and begin to set boundaries in their lives?
Absolutely. It is the number one thing we should be teaching our daughters, to let them know that setting boundaries, like you rightly said, setting boundaries in Africa is frowned upon. You will
Yeah.
meet a lot of resistance when you start setting boundaries. People are not going to like you, or you'll be labeled a difficult person, you'll be labeled a witch, a bad person. It is not something that is welcomed, but I think it is something that we need to start promoting and telling people that this is something that would help you eventually. And I think that most of the relationship that people end up having, or most of the conflict that people have with in-laws or family members or even friends or even within the community, the church community or social group community, when you develop issues with people in those relationships, it's because we did not set the right boundaries with them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when your people take advantage of you or they treat you bad, and you're like, you know what, I don't think I deserve this, and you start setting that boundary, at that point it's too late for you to set the boundaries, and that's why you get the resistance. So for example, if you're in a social group and every time you're called upon to do something, so even though maybe they might call upon you and say, oh, we have this thing that we have to do, you're responsible for cleaning the whole hall and cooking and doing all of this, and you know that within yourself you don't have the ability to take on that responsibility. But because you don't have boundaries, you accept it and you keep doing it, right? Now, the day you realize that, oh my God, this is too much. It's a Saturday. I just want to relax. I don't want to do anything. I don't want to cook. I don't want to go clean up. I'm not going to do it. What do you think will happen? People are, what, that is so mean, why would you do that? Then they get upset with you, and it becomes an issue. So when you start having conflicts with people, it's mostly because you're now setting boundaries and they don't like that. So, yes, boundaries is important. It is something that we should have right off the bat with people that we relate to, that we have relationship with, even with it with your kids as well. You can set boundaries with your kids as well. So it's not just
Yeah.
limited to your spouse. It's not limited to your friends. You set boundaries with people. There'll be no. I mean, think about it. There are probably people that that have always had boundaries, and we look at them and see, oh, this person does not compromise. This person is not nice, right? But it is boundaries that they have, and I used to envy them. Then I was like, oh, this person is so strong.
Yeah.
They were like, I'm not doing this. I admire them, even though that those around me will speak negatively of them. I'm like, no, I admire that strength, like saying, no, I'm not doing that. So yeah, boundaries is something that we need. I think it's the best way for you to have a healthy relationship with people and stick up for yourself and to make sure that your needs are taken care of.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice. All right. In this today's topic, I wish I can have a man okay bold enough, to say something concerning this, because I would love to know their angle when they see a woman who sets boundary um, for herself. Because for me, boundaries is a necessity. But I think we are having a big issue down here in Africa in terms of teaching women on how to set boundaries. The truth is, it's not easy for majority of women down here in Africa to learn how to set boundaries. So, what do you think we can do? How do you think we can encourage them that it is okay to set boundaries? Do it politely, because boundaries doesn't mean yelling at people or making a fuss out of nothing. But I have noticed that majority of women down here, more especially, do not know how to set boundaries, because I can understand you when you said, years ago, you used to envy people who have already learned on how to set boundaries and who can speak up for themselves and say, no, I don't want this. Yeah, we all, all of us came from somewhere. Well, what I mean by that is growing up. We weren't matured as we are now, years back. So yeah, even may happen to me when I see people saying their mind openly. You keep wondering how come they're not afraid of anyone? How come they can say no, when they actually meant no, and not yes when they actually meant no?
Yep.
As we're maturing, now we are women turn to be, people pleasers. Like they please a lot
Yep.
for them to be called a good wife, a very
Yep.
obedient wife. But in the end, it still doesn't pay anyone.
Yep.
Who will like you, who will hate you, will still go ahead and hate you. So, how do you think we can begin to encourage women that it is okay to begin to set boundaries politely? And for those of them who don't really understand the meaning of boundary, the meaning of boundary is nothing but just say no when you want to say no and yes when you want to say yes. You look
Absolutely.
inwards, within yourself before you can look at another person out there. Then if you call it selfishness, so be it. Because when you break down, people will not care about you. Nobody cares
Yep.
whether you break down or not. So how can we help women to learn how to set boundaries for themselves? How can we even begin from there? Because Victoria, it's not about looks. I'm telling you, it's not about looks. There are some women I have seen sophisticated looks, you know, charisma and all that. They don't know how to set boundaries. They are still suffocating, suffering and smiling in silence. So how do we even begin to educate them on that?
Well, so it can be challenging, but I think for us, we kids who are still growing, I think it's important that we start from there as well and start teaching our kids what boundaries are. And for you to be able to do that, you also have to be able to show your child that you understand what boundary is, right? So, for example, if I'm teaching my daughter about boundaries and then I'm going to a party and I say, hey, get dressed let's go. And she looks at me, she's like, Mom, I don't want to go. The people that are going to be at this party are all old people. I have nobody to interact with. I don't think I'm going to have fun there, so I don't want to go. Then if I get upset and start yelling at her, you must go because I told you to go. Am I really teaching her that boundary?
No,
No.
that's controlling.
Exactly. So for us to be able to instill that in our kids, we also need to accept that we need to make some adjustments so that they understand what
Yeah.
for those of us who have already been raised to just like you said, people please. We are raised to people please and like everybody. You see a girl who is interested in getting married, her boyfriend might take her to his family's house. She'll wake up at 5 a.m. to sweep the house and cook and clean and do everything. Why? Because she wants to be accepted. She wants to be seen as a wife material. She wants to be seen as somebody who is going to fit in with the family. And you do all of those things, not because you really want to do them, but because you just want
Yeah.
to, say, hey, I'm a good
You want
person.
to
You
be
should allow your
accepted.
son to
Yeah.
marry me.
You want to be
Yeah.
accepted. Okay, Victoria, just hold on right there.
Okay, sure.
Somebody in the picture, I called him up. I think he's a guy. Is Ebuka,
Yeah.
can you hear us?
Yeah,
Ebuka,
can
can you
hear
hear
you.
us?
Yeah, I'm
Oh,
with you
Ebuka,
guys.
we're
Good
so
evening.
happy to have you. Thank you so much for volunteering to come up. Okay, we're very happy to have you here. So,
You're
Ebuka,
welcome.
I believe you know what the topic is all about, right?
Not really. That is why I'm here because I'm also a learner. I actually love to learn because honestly, let's say very soon I'll also have a family. So yeah,
Oh, fantastic. All right, let me enlighten you more.
but I
Is
haven't, se-
women's
but I haven't seen the wife for.
Don't worry, you're gonna find a wife very soon. But we pray to God you find a good wife. Okay, don't worry, you're gonna find a good wife by the special grace of God.
Man,
All right, this is a women's program actually, but in today's topic, I want a man to come up because I really want a man to let us know this is a topic concerning women, a program concerning women on how to create happiness, find happiness in themselves, learn
okay.
skills, find jobs to be able to create peace in their home. Ebuk, I'm sure you know that when a woman is angry, you know the whole home is already in shambles
Yeah,
in a home. Yeah. So but in today's program we are talking about boundaries on how women should begin to learn how to set boundaries because Ebuka, you are a man, yes I know, but I know you have a mom, I know you have sisters, I know you have nieces.